With Hashem's loving grace, this is Lazer Brody from the Chutz Chesed Yeshiva in the holy city of Yerushalayim with another one of our mini lessons on this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is Vayeshev. We have something very interesting, and this is not my nuance on Torah. Just like everything else, it's something I heard from Rav Shalom. And really, I should have to go on. Rav Shalom says this, Rav Shalom says that. Everybody that knows me knows that everything comes out of my mouth and comes out of my brain. It comes from Rav Shalom. That's my beloved Reuven spiritual guide. Well, Rav Shalom told me an unbelievable nuance, unbelievable and very special. First, we see an exciting, dramatic Torah portion here in Vayeshev. Yaakov Avinu, he sends Joseph, he says, your brothers, they're tending the flocks out in Shechem. We spoke last week about how Shechem is a hot spot, and 2 weeks ago. Shechem is one of the hot spots, and where the civil war began, in civil war between Judea and Israel began in Shechem. Dinah was kidnapped in Shechem. Yosef was sold in slavery in Shechem. Yosef is buried in Shechem. Shechem took over. Shechem was taken over by the Arabs, and the Israeli army just let him have it, and we don't have full control of that. And Shechem is dependent on the Geulah. So Yaakov Avinu knew spiritually that they were in danger. So he says to Yosef, go check on your brothers. Meanwhile, Joseph is not in the best of relations with his brothers because his brother caught them. He was tattletaling to Yaakov Avinu about things that they did. And this was, Chafetz Chaim would have called this Lashon Hara. There's very deep secrets. We're not going to that. But they were jealous of him. Yosef was the only one. They had regular white cloaks, jalabiyas. And Yosef had a multicolored cloak. And he comes and he finally finds them. And they see him afar. And they say, oh, here's Mr. Dreamer. Mr. Dreamer that says all the dreams that he's going to rule over us. Okay, and what they do, and they said, we're going to kill him. They tried him. They made a din Torah against Yosef. The brothers made a din Torah. And the brothers decided that he was guilty of slander and he's guilty of other things, that they're not just going to get revenge. The brothers decided that according to halacha, Yosef gets a death decree. So they decide to kill him. Comes Reuven, and Reuven says, wait a second, I'm the firstborn. If anything happens to Yosef, I'm in big trouble. So what does the Torah says? Reuven comes, and the Torah tells us that Reuven saved him from the brothers. Okay, the brothers say, come on, now we're going to kill him, and we're going to throw him into one of the pits. And then we'll say, and we'll say that a wild animal ate him, and we'll see what his dreams, we'll see who the dreamer is. And Reuven heard the counsel of his brothers, and he saved Yosef from their hands. No, Reuven says, let's not kill him, because Reuven knew he'd get the blame for it. He's the oldest. Vayomer aleim Reuven, and Reuven said to them, Al tishpachu dam, don't spill blood. Hashliuch el abor, let's throw him in this pit. Abor hazeh asher b'midbar, v'yad ashlebo, leman hitzil oto miyadam. This is a Bab Kash in the Torah. That Reuven says, let's throw him in a pit, leman hitzil oto miyadam, in order to save him from their hands. What are you talking about? What's the Torah talking about? Maybe if they would have made a trial, and they said, okay, Yosef, you're accused of this and you're accused of that, and you said slander about us, and if they knew the Chafetz Chaim before the Chafetz Chaim wrote the Chafetz Chaim. And right there, and look how many mitzvahs you transgress by saying bad things about us to our father. Okay, Yosef, you get the death penalty. Yosef could have pleaded in his behalf. Yosef could have pleaded to their mercy. Yosef could say, come on, brother and brother. Okay, don't have mercy on me, but have mercy on my father. You know how long he waited until my mother gave him a child, till Rachel had him a child, and he could appeal to them. And Yosef might he might have dropped to his hands and fours and pleaded with them. Don't think about me. Have mercy on me. Do what you want with me. Don't kill me. Reuven said no. He's not going to let them go to trial. He's going to throw him in a pit Now we know if he would have been on trial, maybe he could have pleaded with the brothers. But Rashi comes and tells us what's going on in the pit. In the pit, there's snakes and scorpions. There's no way out of that pit alive. Now there's halacha, and it's halacha in Ibn Ezer, halacha in the Shulchan Aruch. Suppose you go with your friend on a hunting excursion to darkest Africa. And your husband, your friend, he slips and he falls in a lion's den. And you're scared and you run back and they say, and his wife is here, what's with my husband? And you go to the Beis Din and you say, I was right with him, I saw him fall in the lion's den. Halacha says she cannot remarry. She's an aguna. Halacha does not allow her to remarry because why? It's not positive that the lions ate him. Maybe right before he fell in the lion's den, the lion had a right big fat gazelle. That lion's going to sleep for 3 days. While the lion's sleeping, he finds his way out. If a person falls in a lion's den, according to halacha, that is not a certain death. But you're on the same hunting excursion in darkest Africa, and a guy falls in a snake pit. Wow. And there's pythons and vipers down there. And wherever you find the pythons and the vipers, there's scorpions. Big yellow scorpions and brown scorpions. So now the same guy comes back and he says to the Beis Din, I was with my chavrut on a hunting excursion and he fell into a snake and scorpion pit. The Beis Din now allows, by virtue of this testimony, the guy's wife is allowed to get engaged tonight and to get married. Allowed to get engaged and married. Why? Because the halacha tells us there's no way alive out of escape of a snake pit. So how can the Torah say, Vayatzileo biodam? How can the Torah tell us that Reuven saved Yosef when he took him from an uncertain death and gave him a certain death? This is according to halacha. This question asked Rav Shalom. The answer is unbelievable, the answer Rav Shalom gave. He says the answer is like this. Reuven knew that because of the sin he did in taking his father's bed out of Bilhah's tent and putting it in his mother's tent, Leah's tent, it was as if he defiled his stepmother, and it was a big sin. And Reuven knew that according to that sin, he lost the birthright. It was now going to go from Leah's oldest to Rachel's oldest, which is Yosef. And Yaakov Avinu was a prophet, big prophet, and Navi. He intrinsically knew that. Okay. Reuven knew that the future of Am Yisrael would depend on Yosef. He says, a leader of Israel cannot grovel to flesh and blood. Reuven did not want Yosef to be in a situation grovel to flesh and blood. Reuven put Yosef in a situation where he no longer had affairs with flesh and blood. He had business with Hashem. The only way out of that snake pit was to cry out to Hashem, and that's what Yosef did. And what does Hashem do? Hashem brings along the Ishmaelites, and in Hashgacha Pratis, and in fantastic divine providence, that they're usually bringing from Saudi Arabia kerosene that smells terrible. No, this was a caravan bringing spices and herbs down to Egypt. So Yosef had a sweet-smelling trip down to Egypt. So the Chazal tell us. This is a situation. This is what we learned. This is not a physical saving, it's a spiritual saving. Yosef, instead of crying out to flesh and blood, Yosef learns that the only solution, the only salvation is crying out to Hashem. And that's why Yosef HaTzadik became Yosef HaTzadik. And that's why Yosef HaTzadik had the power to do what he did and to spend the next 22 years alone in the land of Egypt with all the difficulties had in the land of Egypt, the 13 years in jail and then the subsequent time out until the brothers came down to the land of Egypt. This was Yosef HaTzadik. And this is what means that Reuven saved him. He saved him from groveling to human beings and made him turn to Hashem. We should know whenever we turn to Hashem, rather than turning to flesh and blood, we see big salvation. And that's the lesson of this week's Torah portion. Everyone should have a wonderful Shabbos and a wonderful Hanukkah and all your wishes for the best. We should all see with our own eyes the coming of Mashiach, rebuilding our holy temple, speed in our days. Amen.